A massive offer just landed on LeBron James' desk, and this time, it's not about money. Team USA says the door is still open for the 2028 Olympics. No tryout, no competition, just his word. He already said he was done. He told Steph Curry himself. The Team USA jersey was retired. But Los Angeles is calling, the city he called home for 8 years, the one Olympic stage he's never played on US soil. Now the basketball world is asking the same question. Will LeBron James really walk away, or is one final act still coming?
To understand why this moment matters, you have to go back further than most people remember. Long before he was the face of USA basketball, LeBron James was a teenager carrying the weight of a nation's disappointment. In 2004, Team USA suffered a stunning collapse, and a young LeBron watched it happen from the bench. That failure planted something in him, a hunger that would define the next 2 decades of his international career. By 2008, he was no longer watching, he was leading. Alongside Kobe Bryant and a roster built to restore American pride, LeBron helped deliver gold in Beijing. It wasn't just a medal, it was redemption. 4 years later, in London, he did it again, cementing himself as the backbone of a program that had rebuilt its dominance almost entirely around him. Then came the long gap. Injuries, load management, the demands of an NBA career that refused to slow down. LeBron stepped away from Olympic duty for over a decade. Fans wondered if they'd ever see him wear the red, white, and blue again. And then, in 2024, something remarkable happened. At 39 years old, an age when most athletes are commentating from a studio, not competing on a court, LeBron suited up for Team USA one more time in Paris. Nobody expected what came next. He didn't just make the roster, he became the engine of it. Averaging nearly 15 points and over 8 assists a game, he anchored a team stacked with generational talent. And when the final buzzer sounded, Team USA had its gold. LeBron didn't just win it, he was named the most valuable player of the entire tournament after averaging 14.2 points, 8.5 assists, and 6.8 rebounds per game for his country during the Paris Olympics, an achievement that earned him MVP honors of the 2024 Olympics. Think about that for a second. 39 years old, decades removed from his Olympic debut, and still the best player on the floor when it mattered most. It was, by every measure, the perfect way to close a chapter, a storybook ending, the kind of moment you retire on. And that's exactly what everyone assumed had happened. Paris felt final. It felt like a bow tied neatly on one of the greatest international careers basketball has ever seen. 3 gold medals, 1 bronze, a legacy that didn't need anything else added to it. But legacies are strange things. Sometimes the story you think is finished isn't. Sometimes the ending everyone assumed was the ending turns out to be just another chapter break. And for LeBron James, the question of what comes next was about to get a lot more complicated, because a new Olympic Games was already on the horizon, one that wouldn't be in Paris or Beijing or London. This one would be in Los Angeles, his city, the place where he built a second empire, wore purple and gold for 8 seasons, and became something bigger than basketball. And suddenly, a closed door didn't feel quite so closed anymore. So if Paris really was the end, why does this story keep going? Stay with me, because what happens next changes everything.
Every story needs a moment where certainty cracks. For LeBron James, that moment didn't happen in a press conference or a stadium. It happened in private, in a conversation most fans never would have known about if it hadn't eventually made its way into the public record. In November of 2025, LeBron sat down with someone who understood him better than almost anyone else in the sport, Stephen Curry. 2 rivals turned teammates turned friends, 2 men who had shared Olympic locker rooms and championship battles alike. And in that conversation, LeBron said the words that seemed to settle the matter once and for all. He told Curry plainly that he was done wearing the Team USA jersey. No ambiguity, no "we'll see." Just a statement from a man who had given 15 years, 3 gold medals, and countless sacrifices to that jersey, telling a friend that the chapter was closed. And for a while, that was the story. LeBron James had retired from international basketball, on his own terms, at the peak of one final triumphant run. But here's the thing about certainty in sports. It rarely survives contact with time. Because just weeks after that private conversation became public knowledge, a very different kind of report started circulating. Not from LeBron himself, from the people who actually run Team USA basketball. ESPN's Brian Windhorst, one of the most trusted voices covering LeBron's career for over 2 decades, revealed something that changed the entire conversation. Team USA, he said, hadn't closed the book on LeBron at all. In fact, they were prepared to do something almost unheard of for a program built on competition and merit: offer him a roster spot for the 2028 games without requiring him to earn it through a training camp competition. Let that sink in for a moment. No tryout, no proving himself against a new generation of stars, just an open invitation, sitting there, waiting for one man to change his mind. Why would Team USA do that? Why extend an offer to a player who had already said, in his own words, that he was finished? The answer says everything about what LeBron James still means to this program and to this sport. He isn't just a former Olympian to them. He's insurance, he's leadership, he's a name that alone raises the ceiling of what a roster can become. And that's where the conflict begins. On one side, a 40-year-old man who told his closest friend the door was shut. On the other, an entire national program refusing to lock it. Two truths sitting in direct opposition to each other. And somewhere in the middle, millions of fans left wondering which version of the story they should believe. Because if LeBron really meant what he said to Curry, why would Team USA even bother? Unless, somewhere deep down, even they suspected what so many fans were starting to whisper, that LeBron James doesn't always stay retired from the things he loves most. A closed door, an open invitation. Something had to give, and the next development would make this conflict impossible to ignore.
News like this doesn't stay quiet for long. Within hours of Windhorst's report going public, the basketball world erupted into exactly the kind of debate that defines the modern sports conversation: loud, divided, and impossible to look away from. On one side, you had the believers, fans who had watched LeBron defy every expectation about aging athletes for over a decade. To them, this wasn't just plausible, it felt inevitable. Why wouldn't the greatest competitor of his generation want one more run, especially with the games landing in his own backyard? Social media filled with a single electric question: could the king really make it 5 Olympic appearances? On the other side, skeptics pushed back hard. LeBron would be 43 years old by the time the opening ceremony arrived in Los Angeles. 43. An age where even the most durable athletes in history are usually years into retirement, not lacing up for international competition against players half their age. Critics argue that Team USA's offer wasn't really about basketball necessity. It was about respect, nostalgia, and the box office power of LeBron's name. And then there were the reporters closest to the situation, adding layers of nuance that only deepened the intrigue. ESPN's Tim McMahon offered a perspective that reframed the entire debate. Rather than treating this as a simple yes or no question, McMahon suggested it was really about symbolism, about unfinished business. He pointed out that despite everything LeBron had accomplished on the international stage, there was one experience he'd never had: playing in Olympics on his own soil. And with Los Angeles being the city where he'd spent 8 defining seasons of his career, McMahon noted, Los Angeles is basically home for him. That single observation reframed everything. This wasn't just about whether a 43-year-old could still compete at an elite level. It was about whether LeBron James, a man obsessed with legacy, with symmetry, with writing his own story, could really walk away from the one Olympic moment he'd never gotten to experience. Meanwhile, Team USA's roster planning only added fuel to the fire. Reports emerged outlining a projected 2028 lineup built almost entirely around a new generation: Anthony Edwards, Jason Tatum, Cooper Flagg, Cade Cunningham, young, hungry, ascending stars ready to inherit the program LeBron had helped rebuild. And yet, glaringly, several established veterans were left off that list entirely. Names like Joel Embiid, Devin Booker, and Jaylen Brown. If LeBron wasn't guaranteed, why were players younger and healthier than him being excluded from the conversation altogether? It raised an uncomfortable question that fans couldn't stop asking. Was Team USA quietly building a roster with a LeBron-shaped hole left deliberately open? Because you don't reserve a seat at the table for someone who's truly gone. You reserve it for someone you're still hoping walks back through the door. The debate was no longer about whether LeBron could still play. It was about whether he could resist one final chance to make history, and what happened next would only raise the stakes.
Just as the Olympic speculation reached its loudest point, LeBron James made a decision that seemed, at first glance, completely unrelated, and yet it changed the entire shape of the conversation. After years associated with Los Angeles, after building an empire with the Lakers that spanned 8 seasons, LeBron shocked the basketball world by signing with the Philadelphia 76ers, a 2-year deal worth $8 million that placed him alongside Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Jaylen Brown in pursuit of one final championship chase. And when he addressed the decision publicly, he offered a quote that fans immediately dissected for hidden meaning. "This is my last decision," LeBron said after choosing the Philadelphia 76ers. Read that quote again. This is my last decision. Not this is my last season, not this is my last team, his last decision. For a man as calculated with his words as LeBron James, someone who has spent 20 years understanding exactly how every sentence he speaks will be picked apart, that phrasing landed like a thunderclap. Was he talking about free agency, about his career as a whole? Or whether he intended it or not, was he accidentally handing fans a clue about how the Olympic question would ultimately resolve? The backlash and speculation split into two camps almost instantly. Some argued that leaving Los Angeles for Philadelphia proved LeBron had emotionally moved on, that a man chasing one final ring wouldn't also be chasing an Olympic marathon a full season after his NBA career likely ends. Why add the physical toll of international competition onto a body already fighting the greatest opponent of all, time itself? But others saw it differently. They pointed out that geography doesn't erase symbolism. LeBron could play his final NBA seasons in Philadelphia and still return to Los Angeles for the Olympics. Separate stages, separate purposes, both meaningful in their own way. If anything, some argued, leaving the Lakers made an Olympic return in LA even more poetic. A farewell tour that ends not with the team he left, but with the country he always represented, in the city that shaped him. Adding even more weight to the moment, LeBron made his intentions about this new chapter explicit, telling reporters the move to Philadelphia wasn't about money, a clear signal that whatever decisions remained in his career from this point forward would be driven purely by legacy and desire, not financial incentive. And that detail matters enormously for the Olympic question, because if money was never the motivator, then the 2028 decision won't be shaped by contracts, endorsements, or business calculations. It will be shaped by something far more unpredictable, how LeBron James feels deep down about how he wants his story to end. Which means the backlash, the debates, the dissected quotes, none of it actually answers the question. It only sharpens it. Because somewhere between a private conversation with Steph Curry and a very public jersey change, LeBron had left every single person guessing about what he truly wants. Every clue seemed to contradict the last, and just when fans thought the picture was getting clearer, the truth turned out to be far more complicated than anyone expected.
So where does that leave us? After the private conversation with Curry, after Windhorst's bombshell report, after the cryptic Philadelphia quote, what is actually true? Here's the honest answer, and it might not be the dramatic bombshells some fans are hoping for. Nobody knows yet. Not the reporters, not Team USA, possibly not even LeBron himself. And that uncertainty, as frustrating as it is, might be the most revealing truth of this entire story. Because according to those closest to the situation, that ambiguity is intentional on both sides. Team USA insiders have made it clear that no one within the program wants to force a decision this far in advance. There's no ultimatum, no deadline pressure, no public campaign to recruit him, just an open invitation, sitting quietly, waiting to be accepted or declined whenever LeBron is ready to decide. And that patience tells its own story. Programs don't extend indefinite tryout-free invitations to players they consider a formality. They do it for players who represent something the entire system is built around. LeBron isn't being offered a spot because Team USA needs a warm body on the bench. He's being offered a spot because his presence alone elevates everyone around him, the way it always has for over 15 years of international competition. Meanwhile, the symbolism McMahon identified keeps resurfacing in every conversation about this decision. LeBron James has played on nearly every Olympic stage basketball has to offer: Athens, Beijing, London, Rio in a diminished capacity, and Paris in triumphant fashion. The only stage missing from that list is the one happening in his own country, in a city that shaped nearly a decade of his career and life. For a man who has spoken openly for years about legacy, about how his story will be remembered, that absence isn't a small detail. It's the one chapter still unwritten. And there's a mathematical truth working in his favor too. If LeBron plays out his current contract, his NBA career runs directly into the summer of 2028. That means the Olympics wouldn't require him to come out of retirement or disrupt some post-basketball life. It would simply be the final act of a career that was already going to be active at that exact moment. The timing, whether by coincidence or design, lines up almost perfectly. So here's where the truth actually sits as of right now. LeBron James has not said yes. He has not said no again either. At least not publicly, not since that private conversation with Curry. What he has done is leave every door standing exactly where Team USA left it, open, unforced, and entirely in his control. Which means the resolution to this story isn't a headline yet. It's a decision still being made, quietly by one man weighing everything he's already accomplished against the one thing he's never done. The doors open, the stage is set, and the only person left to write the ending is LeBron himself. Step back for a moment from the reports, the quotes, the speculation, and look at the bigger picture. What we're really talking about here isn't just a roster decision. It's the final chapter of one of the most remarkable competitive careers professional sports has ever produced. Think about everything LeBron James has already secured. 4 NBA championships, 4 MVP awards, 3 Olympic gold medals, and an MVP performance in his 4th appearance, delivered at an age when most legends are already comfortably retired. There is nothing left for him to prove. No accolade that would meaningfully change how history remembers him. By every conventional measure, LeBron James has already won. And that's exactly what makes this decision so fascinating. This isn't a young player desperate to build a resume. This is a 43-year-old icon deciding whether to add one final, purely symbolic achievement to a career that doesn't need it, purely because of what it would mean. Playing in Olympics in Los Angeles isn't about the medal count. It's about closing a loop that's remained open for his entire adult life. It's about standing on the one stage that connects everything he built in that city to the country he's represented since he was a teenager. There's also something deeply human buried inside this story, beneath all the headlines and hot takes. LeBron James has spent his entire adult life being watched, analyzed, and judged in real time. Every decision, where he plays, who he plays with, when he retires, gets dissected before he's even finished making it. And yet here he is again, at 40 years old, still capable of generating this much genuine uncertainty, still capable of making the entire sports world hold its breath, waiting to see what he does next. That's not something you can manufacture. That's not marketing or hype. That's what happens when a career has been built with such consistency, such longevity, such competitive fire, that even the possibility of one more chapter feels seismic. Whatever LeBron ultimately decides, one thing is already certain. This moment, right now, is part of his story too. The uncertainty itself has become part of the legacy, proof that even after 2 decades at the top, he still has the power to make people wonder what's coming next. So think about what you just watched unfold. A private conversation with a friend, a public report that reopened everything, a career-altering free agency decision that only deepened the mystery, and now a nation waiting patiently for one man to decide how his story on the biggest international stage will finally end. Will LeBron James walk away from Team USA for good, or is Los Angeles calling him toward one last unforgettable chapter? If you had to guess right now, what do you think he does? Drop your prediction in the comments, and if this story pulled you in, make sure you're subscribed because you won't want to miss how this one actually ends.